Welcome everyone to the second in a series of webinars around Triton GPT and AI at UC San Diego. There's actually been a bunch of different webinars, but this is one that OSI, ITS, and a few others are putting together to try to celebrate some of the different things that are happening at UC San Diego. So today's session is going to focus on developing learning experiences. And we have a wonderful panel of folks who are volunteering their time to talk about different ways that they have been leveraging AI and how you might see it represented and that sort of thing. So today's session is being brought to you in partnership with the Learning Community of Practice at UC San Diego. So I would love to ask Karen Monroe to step forward and share a little bit about the Learning Community of Practice.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Monroe, and I'm the Director of Learning and Knowledge Infrastructure in Campus Human Resources. One of my responsibilities is coordinating our UC San Diego Learning Community of Practice, or LCOP. Tony, if you go to the next slide. Most of you are probably familiar with the concept of a community of practice, but just in case you aren't, it is essentially defined as a group of people who are informally bound together by shared expertise and a passion for a joint enterprise. So for this particular group, our passion and the thing that binds us together are the fact that we all work at UC San Diego and we have this expertise and passion for learning. So we are a group of people engaged in the design and delivery of learning experiences at UC San Diego. And by bringing this group together, we hope that we can all learn how to do it better as we interact as this group, but we also are seeking to create greater connection amongst those of us engaged in this type of work, as well as greater alignment of the work that we all do. Right now, we have about 70 members of the community of practice, and they represent 9 different VC areas within the university, 27 different departments, and more than 30 different job titles. But the vast majority, or sort of the lion's share of people that participate regularly in the community of practice have titles like trainer, organizational consultant, and instructional designer. But there's a lot of variety still in job titles beyond those, but those are some of the most common that you will see. And this group, we share ideas and tools about how we do our work. So we share best practices, we learn from each other, we talk about what we're all working on, we seek advice and guidance from each other. We also do updates from the central learning function. So our department here in campus HR, we talk about the things that we're working on in terms of guidance and oversight of the central learning function here at the university. In terms of practical matters, the group, we meet roughly 4 times a year. And we also interact over a Teams chat. And I believe I saw that someone put in the chat a link to the team. So if anyone is interested in checking out the learning community of practice or joining, there's no commitment to buy just by attending a meeting. You're not committing yourself to anything. But we would love to have many more folks join us and contribute to the team. So you're all welcome to do so. We don't have another meeting scheduled at this point, but there should be one more before the end of 2024. And I think with that, I will turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I love the community, by the way. I've leveraged the teams a few different times to, I have a challenge and I'm trying to accomplish this thing in developing a learning experience for staff, and the community's really come together in those moments. So thank you, thank you. And I encourage folks to check it out. All right, goals for today, a little bit of prep so that everyone knows kind of the journey. So we're going to discuss staff learning experiences. So we're going to define that a little bit, but we're going to really focus and narrow in on what are the different sort of learning scenarios we might find ourselves in as staff members and how AI is going to partner and support those. We're going to share available resources. We're going to talk through some specific examples, and that's what our panel is here for. So I just wanted to set that sort of stage. And then Mahmoud, if you tell us a little bit about how the day is going to flow.
Yeah, so basically we're gonna have like a bunch of panelists that we'll interview and we'll talk to them about how they use AI in their work, and they're all people that are driving AI innovation at UCSD in some respect. Um, so they're just gonna be telling us a bit more about that.
Awesome, thank you. And so that everyone knows, we also have a number of links that are going to be posted in the chat. So as we're going through and giving certain examples, process maps and different resources, even some prompts, some example prompts that we've used, any resources that we put in the chat are also going to be available in the slide deck, which is going to be made available to everyone. So if you see a little lightning bolt on any of the sides, this little lightning bolt up here at the top, that's an indicator that when you go back later to review the slides, and you're like, where was that link? You can look at the specific slide that has a lightning bolt, and the link's going to be put in the notes section for that. So if anyone here is interested, curious, misplaces their links, or if you're watching the recording now, if it's a year and a half later and you're watching this recording, one, thank you, but also know that you still have access to these links and resources. They're going to be in the slide content. All right. So let's talk about or think about why we are here, what we hope to accomplish. We need to really think about, our time is limited. This is an hour session. We've got 235 people paying attention to this right now. Thank you all. So all this time is really meant to do what, right? And I promise I'm not going to get to an existential space. I'm not going to try to convert anyone. What I more mean by this is, why are we here? Why are we in this Zoom session? Or why are we watching this recording? What do we hope to accomplish? So if you're somebody who uses learning content in your role, if you're accessing information, if you're expanding your skills, we hope that you'll learn some ways that AI is going to help you along in that journey. If you're somebody who develops content, if you're a person who creates job aids, who creates process maps, who creates asynchronous modules, who creates policy documents, all of those things I would posit to you are learning opportunities for staff in a staff context. And hopefully you'll get some ideas on how different people are leveraging AI to create some of those things. For example, this could be a learning experience. I'm hoping that everyone here is going to take away something that they can apply in the world. We all put together this slide deck with a lot of intentionality, and sometimes we want images that'll tell a particular story or set the mood or the tone. So a lot of the images that you're going to see in this slide content are AI generated. So the ones you've already seen so far, the little robot, the guy looking off to the stars, the goalposts, all of those are actually AI generated. And what that's done for me and for us has been that we've saved time. I'm not spending my time searching through different databases to find maybe the image. I'm not going out to try to take an image, take a picture of a thing that I can use. I'm getting good quality images, so I'm not getting things with watermarks or that are low resolution. I'm not having to pay additional fees or whatever to be able to access the image. So there's a lot of benefit, a lot of ways to think about how it helps us. In addition to the idea of, I can get to an image that's more quick, or cheaper or that sort of thing. I'm able to get something that actually gets closer to the feel that I'm trying to give the audience. You know what I mean? If I'm trying to send resonance with this image, it's often to try to get a message across. And sometimes the images that we find via Google searches or in other channels, we kind of settle for it, or we settle for clip art. So this is maybe your first tip: is if you're putting together a PowerPoint presentation and you want some interesting images, try using Canva, or try using Adobe Firefly, or try using the Meta's AI image generator. Or if Triton GPT, gets to the point where it can generate images, try using Triton GPT. Or if you're in the future watching this recording and it can do that already, go use it. I'm going to start off, sort of set the tone, as any good commencement speech would. Webster's dictionary defines learning as, right? We've heard that time and time again. The dictionary defines whatever the source topic is as whatever, and that's been okay. It's been a good enough way to start. But I can use AI to maybe get a little bit closer, right? So I went to AI. As you see the lightning bolt in the top left, there's an example of the prompt there. We're going to put that prompt in the tool, if in the chat. If you have access to Triton GPT, you'll be able to see it. If you don't, I apologize. But if you click on the link in the chat now, you can actually see the prompt that I used, the initial response, and then the output. So and then how I sort of massaged it from there. So I would say, and I agree with this, learning is a process by which people acquire new knowledge, skills, and attitudes through a combination of cognitive, emotional, and social experiences. So when I think of learning experiences as staff members, I think of any time I need to access information in order to accomplish something, right? I'm looking for a bit of information so I can do a process better. I'm looking for a set of steps or a policy related to a particular, step that I need to do. I'm looking for a definition of something that's unfamiliar to me in the workplace. Or I'm using AI because I'm, trying to get somebody else to learn something, right? I know really well this process backwards and forwards, or this set of steps, or this policy. So sometimes we're going to use AI not to just access the information, to go find something that already exists, maybe to generate something new, but also to potentially create something that will help somebody else learn. And I know that feels a little inception-y, right? We're learning about learning so that we can create learning for learning experiences. But bear with me there for a little bit. So when I'm thinking about learning, I'm very process driven personally. And this is a process map that I created, and it was created in ProMap. And I think this honestly applies to any process. So whether you're talking about building a job aid, or building a video, or building a PowerPoint deck, or a training module, a class, I think these apply for each of these. And if you received an error from the link, I apologize. We'll look into it. But it may be provisioning access permissions, but we'll take a look. So in terms of this process map, the first step, determine your goals. Like, who is it that you're developing this content for? What's the perceived need? You're going to then create some sort of outline. What is the content maybe I want them to get? What are some important tips or resources that I want to include therein? And you're going to draft the content. You're going to build the framework of it. Then you'll assess it. So you're going to put the class in front of people, and hopefully they'll give you some feedback on how to tailor it before you fully launch it. You'd fully then launch the content. And then, of course, we want to make sure that you're adjusting over time. So, don't just one and done create a thing and plant your flag. There's going to be opportunities for continuous improvement after you've developed the content. And those are things we highly encourage folks to do as they're going through and building new content. Again, whatever it is, a job aid, a process map, a class, that sort of thing. One of the key takeaways here, as you're thinking about, well, where here can I use AI? If you look at each of these steps, any of these steps, and you think about which of these involve language, or which of these involve repeatable tasks, or which of these need additional sort of frameworks or thinking, any place where you might be able to reach out to a colleague or a coworker, or you might want to do additional research online. All of those are opportunities to use AI. So creating the outline, for example, generative AI could help you say, if you went into a prompt and said, I need to build a class. I don't know how to. What are the first steps I should do? What would an outline look like, right? And then it could give you that sort of bit. In terms of assessing the content, let's say I've built out a slide deck. I can load the slide deck into a tool and say, please give me feedback on this. Does it meet accessibility standards? Am I meeting our individual diversity goals? You can upload your PowerPoint into that to do the assessment phase. To do the adjust and improve over time, you could take your content and say, it's not really resonating well with an audience from this particular area or this particular role. You could take the same text that you've already written and not have to rewrite it, but you can say, write it with this perspective or in this other language or for this different audience. So you can use AI at any of these steps, I would say, so long as you're thinking about which of these involve language, if you're using a language model tool or a repeatable task, and what are we doing with the language? We're translating it, we are massaging it, we're generating new ideas, we're sort of bouncing ideas back and forth. These are things that you can potentially do as you're developing learning content. We're going to see some examples of that throughout. I also want to say that this process map here is the experience we're going to go through in this session today. So as we're talking to the different speakers, we're going to be learning and hearing about how folks might create draft content, how they might assess the content. So I won't spoil the surprise, but I'm really excited for some of that. And if you're a learner, so if you're not somebody necessarily who creates content, this is maybe your journey, right? You're going to figure out what you don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So you're going to assess the need for that information, figure out what you're trying to accomplish. I'm trying to submit a form, and I'm not sure how to submit the form. I'm trying to understand this policy, and it's written in a very academic or legalese way, and it doesn't resonate with me. Any of these steps, going through from registering, completing the course, Let's say you've completed a course and you're really excited about it. You want to post to LinkedIn. You want to communicate at step 4 out to your stakeholders, or you want to just celebrate that. You can use AI to generate something to help you to write, summarize your accomplishments, that sort of thing. And then hopefully you go out and apply what you've learned. We're not just taking in information. Hopefully we're going out into the world, we're doing something with it. So I would love to bring forward Mahmoud. Mahmoud, you are a student. If you could introduce yourself, part of the reason we have you here today is you are both a student and staff member. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Mahmoud. I'm a third year at UCSD and I'm majoring in computer science and economics. And for the last 3 months, I've been working as a student consultant with OSI.
Awesome, awesome. Is this your student consultant with OSI? So is this your first sort of administrative role?
Yeah, but it's my first experience in any administrative or corporate setting.
Awesome, awesome. And what were some of the challenges that you may have faced when you first came into our team, aside from having to work with folks like me? What were some of the things that you struggled with, and then maybe some ways that you leveraged AI to help overcome those?
So there were ma three main challenges that I encountered. Like the first one was learning all the consulting and corporate terms, which were all entirely new to me. And also I had to adapt to a lot of new tools like Microsoft Teams, ClickUp, PowerPoint. A lot of these I hadn't used before, much or at all before. And also adjusting to professional communication, like writing confidently, polished emails. All of this required a lot of extra focus for me. And I used AI to help me in all of these, like for all the consulting and corporate terms, AI provided quick definitions, helped me understand the context and assume knowledge behind different concepts. When it came to like learning new tools like Teams and ClickUp, it taught me how to do different things within these tools. And of course, when drafting and refining my emails, it gave me suggestions that really boosted my confidence in my professional communication.
I love that. For perspective, I'm a bit of an older fellow, so when I joined, it was a lot of shadowing. It was a lot of sort of observing, and every once in a while, a wag of the finger, like, "Oh yeah, you shouldn't write in that tone because it's unprofessional and sort of thing." So you're saying that you used AI to sort of identify some of those gaps, almost like as a thought partner, and to help you sort of accelerate the onboarding process. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It helped me so much. I can't even explain.
Awesome. As your experience as a student, to whatever extent you're comfortable sharing, how much do you use AI?
I probably use it for a lot of this in a lot of the same ways that I use it at work. The main thing I use AI for is to tell me what I don't know that I don't know. Like whenever there's like a concept that I don't fully understand, I know that I don't understand it, but there are also probably like there's probably some background information that I don't know that I don't know. So whenever I prompt ChatGPT or GPT or whatever, I ask it to provide like any context or related foundational information that I would need. And that's really helped me so much in gaining clarity on like a deep understanding of these concepts.
So your prompts help us understand what they would look like in a scenario like that, where you're faced with some job related task and you're like, wow, I feel unprepared for this. Is it you start with a scenario, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, and then like can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just give it the scenario like, hey, my boss asked me to do this. I need to use these tools to do it. This is the context. What do I need to know to be able to do this effectively? And what do I probably not know that I should know about this?
I love that. I love that. I think some of the anxiety and fear in some circles is that folks are just going to ask for just the answer. Just tell me, do this thing for me. I need to write an email, just write the email for me. I need to do this task, just do the task for me. They're thinking of it in terms of automation. And I love this example that you're giving of like, I'm not using it to do the task for me. I'm using it to sort of ramp me up so that I can complete whatever the task is. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. I consider AI like a cognitive extension of myself, like just my assistant that's like helping me make sense of this new world that I'm in.
I love that. I love that. And it's a great analogy too, because we're all in this new world and we're all trying to figure out, what all this is. There was one use case that I think in conversation you mentioned about a cover letter. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I've been applying to a lot of like tech internships for this summer, and a lot of them require me to write cover letters. So instead, what I've been doing is I've uploaded all of my different resumes, all of the cover letters I've written, lots of like background context, college essays about like my life and what I've done, and different narratives about me. And then I used AI to like basically prompt it like, okay, use all of this context, all this information that I gave you about me, and then reshape it to write this cover letter for this specific company, which has these values.
Super, super cool. Very insightful. Thank you, Mahmoud. We'll be hearing more from you in just a little bit, but we're going to pivot over real quick to our next speaker. Now, our next speaker, her name is Ashlyn Burnell. One thing that she was going to tell us about, she was going to talk to us about, was the different contexts of staff learning that are going to be a little bit different from what you might see in other environments. Now, I regret to inform everyone that Ashlyn had an emergency. And we love her very much, so we want to make sure that she's able to take care of what she needs to take care of. She has prepared for us a recording, so please indulge me in watching this little bit. Everyone imagine that she's actually speaking in front of us. It's going to be great.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashlyn Bernal, and I'm part of the Financial Insights and Training Solutions team with Heather Sears. Happy to be talking to you today with this webinar. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'm here to talk to you about what all of this means for our audiences. And we work at UC San Diego, which falls into a bit of a different category than a lot of other institutions. We are government, we're not necessarily corporate, but we have overlap with some corporate experiences, with some government experiences. We're a public educational institution, and there's a lot of thought that needs to go into that. So I'm going to talk to you about some of that stuff. First off, again, we are a public university, and there are some considerations that come along with that. Namely, we are a diverse audience with diverse levels of experience. We have people from all walks of life coming here to the university to work with all different levels of experience. Some people coming in knowing a lot about their position. Maybe you're a fund manager coming in and you have a CPA license. You already know about everything that needs to do about accounting. Maybe you're coming in as a fund manager, more coming here to learn more about all of that and getting used to that sphere. So some people might even have experience working at a government or a public university institution, and some people might be coming from corporate. So you've got all levels of experience, as well as, again, people from all different kinds of backgrounds that needs to be taken into consideration in training to make sure that everyone feels like it relates to them and like they're being represented. As I mentioned, this is similar but fundamentally different from other government or corporate learning situations. We lie somewhere in the middle, and that doesn't mean we take some from one, some from the other, and that makes up our public university. We have our own rules and things that we need to keep in mind as a public research university in California. One of these things is accessibility. We need to really uphold these accessibility guidelines, make sure that we are following everything to the letter so that we are essentially doing what the law tells us to do. We're not doing it for fun, although it is fun. Accessibility can be fun to just figure out how exactly to make it work. We are doing everything that is required of us by law. This can mean a lot of things. This can mean captioning and alt text, making sure that any audio that we have has an option for you to also read it, and vice versa, that anything you read has an auditory option that you can use a screen reader with it. All images have alt text so that you don't need to be able to visually see the picture to understand what is happening within it. Avoiding exclusive language such as you see here, because again, if someone isn't looking at a screen, we can't say, click here or look as you see over here, because they don't see over there. So we need to be careful about that kind of language. Avoiding interactions which require the use of a mouse, such as clicking and dragging. Some people can only use a keyboard to navigate the training, and so we need to be mindful of that and not put in an interaction in a training that will stop them from moving forward. And as well, we have audio options using AI voice generators. That way, we are, again, creating a little bit more interaction for someone who maybe isn't reading things off of a screen. What we found as well is that all of these accessibility options not only make it more accessible so that we can reach a wider audience, make sure that everyone can enjoy the training, it also results in having multiple modalities for a training. You know, so even if you don't have accessibility needs, maybe you like captions. I always have captions on in my videos personally. And I don't need them, you know, I can hear it just fine, but the captions really, something that I enjoy. And so all of these things, having auditory and visual options for essentially several options for the same material, does tend to result in a more, I would say, immersive experience. So we do try to make things accessible, not because it's required, but also because it tends to result in a better training product overall. A big thing that we also have to keep in mind is assessing existing resources. At the university, and specifically with the training that my team creates, we are creating a financial training program, right? So we have, we pull from training that exists already at the university. We are creating a module on award management, and there's a ton of content that exists on award management. We have the START tool, we have Blink pages, KBAs, videos, webinars, a ton of different resources that we need to assess, see, is this up to date? Is this something that is still usable? Is this something that people are connecting with? Or is this just a vestigial option that we have that it kind of just exists and maybe we should get rid of it? So we need to do a lot of assessing of existing resources because at the university, we have a lot of them. And sometimes that content is very much overlapping, right? So we have maybe KBAs and Blink pages that cover the exact same content. So we need to figure out if they're overlapping, is one of them correct and one of them incorrect? Are they just two ways of saying the same thing? What is the overlap and what is the right way of saying it? How can we make them consistent? As I mentioned, content may not be up to date, so it's up to us to make sure it is up to date, not just pulling from Blink pages and saying, oh, this is on Blink, perfect, let's use that for our training, but thinking critically, going back to the subject matter experts and saying, is this stuff actually up to date? Can we pull from this for training? That's something, and this overall is something that we use AI for a lot currently. It can help us pare down information. We can feed it Blink pages, KBAs, scripts from webinars and say, tell me where the overlap is. Tell me some themes that you see, create an outline out of all of this content, and overall help us put all of this stuff together so that we have one cohesive learning experience. And so all of this is how it can be related to us as a governmental institution at a public university. And I will go ahead and hand it off to the next speaker. Again, thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you, Ashlyn, for providing that. I think it's interesting thinking too about the different kinds of learning experiences, right? We're all here listening to a webinar so we can ask questions, but some folks are going to be watching the recordings and we just watched a recording of a recording. You know, what was that feeling like? Did that change your experience of the webinar at all if you're in person versus if you were watching a recording? Just interesting. I can spend all day on this stuff. But we're going to pivot over now. So let's say you've assessed the group, you've talked to your students or your staff, you've sort of assessed the need, you've taken into consideration the different tools that are available and the context or the content that you're going to need to include. Balkis and Raul, tell us a little bit about your experience in creating some content.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Balkis Robles, and I am a learning technology specialist with staff learning and development. Raul.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raul Navarro Rodriguez. I am also one of the senior learning technologies analysts with staff learning and development. Next slide. All right, so today we'll be doing a little storytelling on the use of AI in instructional design and e-learning development. The first part of this story is the challenge, so let's jump right into it. So it all started when Balkis and I, two of the greatest e-learning developers that ever existed, were tasked with developing a course on a topic that we weren't familiar with. So developing course content is often the role of the subject matter experts, but in this case, we were asked to perform that role. So we knew that the relevant content was scattered all across Blink, so we would need some support to get started. We also knew that we had a knowledge gap on this topic since we knew nothing about it. So we decided to leverage Triton GPT to help us create the course outline and the course content that we could then further refine and apply our instructional design skills to. All right, so chapter 2, Triton GPT. So we started by asking Triton GPT's UC San Diego assistant to generate an outline for the course for us. So we provided the tool with some basic information, such as the topics that the subject matter experts wanted covered, the target audience, and the learning objectives. So within minutes, Triton GPT produced a comprehensive outline that covered all of the topics that we were interested in. Having this outline ready, we were able to overcome our first hurdle, which was just getting started. So for the next chapter of this story, I'll turn it over to Balkis.
Yes, so I will continue with the story. I would like to for you guys to go a little bit back to the process map that Tony presented, because the next two sections will be like the step 3 and the step 4 of that process map. So after we had our guide outline and the subject matter experts agree that those were the topics that they want to cover, then here comes the heavy lifting, which is creating the actual content and finding all the information that we need to have to actually build the course. This was kind of challenging from the point of view that our subject matter experts were several. We had about 6 subject matter experts from different areas. So they all have like a little piece of the information that we have to put it together. So this is where Triton GPT came into play, and we start asking and prompting Triton GPT to give us the content based on that outline. And the content came primarily from Blink, right? And when we gather all the content that Triton GPT provided for our outline, then is when we were able to apply our superpowers. And what are superpowers as e-learning developers is taking content, condense the content, or separate the content in digestible chunks for the learner, finding out how to present that content in a way that it makes sense, create analogies, deciding if it's easier to go from a big concept into a small concept or the other way around, taking a small piece of an idea and then expand it for the learner to understand the picture that we are trying to paint. But this part is where you apply your skills after you have all the content that Triton GPT is able to give you. Then is where you, let's say, massage and use all your tool and all your knowledge to shape that content. This will be step number 3. And then now for step number 4, is the part where we have to understand and be aware that there are potential pitfalls using AI generated content. This might include, there will be a risk of bias or inaccuracy. There might also be content that might be incorrect, because if the content does not exist, maybe the AI start hallucinating and creating content. So this is the part where now we involve our subject matter experts again. And we have saved a lot of time, which is one of our most limited resources, because now the subject matter experts are ready. They had a framework, they have the content, we have crafted that course, and now they have just to go through the flow of that course and determine which part are correct and which might need some tweaking, and which parts we really have to remove, or we really have to look into it, and why the Triton GPT is generating that content. So it's a way of curating the content that we have already extracted from Triton GPT, but already in the shape or the form of a course, which it saves a lot of time, because we give a head start to our subject matter experts in the course creation process. So that we can go to the takeaways.
All right. So some of the key takeaways, as we described here, are that you can leverage AI to bridge some skill gaps. So our skill gap was that we knew nothing about this particular topic that we were working on. So we were able to tell it what information to provide, where to go look for it, which was on Blink, and we were able to do that. So then we are also able to overcome a roadblock, which was, just getting started. Oftentimes we're thinking about, well, where do I start? I don't know anything about this particular topic. And that's where you can use AI as a companion to be able to just get you that initial little nudge, as we did here in developing the actual course outline and the content.
Yeah, and also it's a very efficient use of finite resources. Just imagine having to come together 9 people in several meetings to determine how we're going to create these, what is the content that we're going to create, and then going through each one of the creation process of each sections of a course. That will have taken a lot of time. So definitely Triton GPT help us speed up the process and make her more the content development and the e-course development more agile. And as the other takeaway is the importance of assessing the accuracy of the information, right? We understand that sometimes when we are looking for information on Blink, it might not be the most up-to-date information, or we might find 2 pages that might have similar titles or similar content. So it's very important to review, go back to the references, and get the support of your subject matter experts, because they are the ones that at the end know exactly what the content on your course should be. Tony?
I love that. Thank you for all that perspective. If I can put you on the spot in the hot seat for just one more half a second, if you were to say pre and post AI, how long would it take you to build a course from start to finish? So it took you an estimate of 500 hours, 120 hours. I really don't know because I don't develop course content. And then more or less, just a soft number of like, what do you think it is more recently now in your experience? Give me an estimate.
I could take that, and I'll give everyone's favorite answer. It depends.
Ah.
Okay, well, usually
Percentage-wise, maybe.
This part can definitely take weeks or months to develop, because you need to know what your learning objectives are. You need to know what content is going to go into it, and you just need things written out. And sometimes just that writing one sentence part, is adds time to it. So I'd say, it can take about a month or so to, build out this content. So that's what we saved. Balkis, would you say anything?
I agree, especially with it depends. But it does reduce the time. It does reduce the time. I will go back to my example of meetings, especially when you have 1 or 2 subject matter experts. That is a small conversation, but when you have 5 or 7, the conversation might get a little more challenging, right? So it does reduce the time and help us move forward faster.
Love it. Well, thank you for that insight. And again, just I love the idea of you're the folks who make classes, but you don't know all the content, and you're sort of being asked to create a thing based on content you're not familiar with, versus the folks who know the content, but they don't know the course development part of it. So AI can help sort of bridge the gap in both those directions and do it in a very sort of effective way, at least to get that ball rolling and to get us feeling like Mahmoud was saying earlier, like I feel ill-equipped to do this thing, but I have to do this thing. So it highlights maybe for you don't know what you don't know. It sort of becomes that thought partner and it gets you started. So I love it. Awesome. Thank you. We'll bring in forward our next guest here, Dr. Beth Simon. So now we're at the point where we've developed some content. She's going to share a little bit about a course that you've developed, and we're going to see real time an example of some prompting for those of you who are interested. Go for it.
Great. Thank you, everybody. My name is Beth Simon, and I'm a faculty member in the Education Studies Department. And I'm currently designing or redesigning a course that is taught to our undergraduates, computer science and cognitive science majors, as well as education sciences majors. And it's also designed to help prepare teachers who want to teach computer science in K-12. And this course is about how do we teach our kids about the impacts that technology is having on society. And so clearly, if you're redesigning the course in this day and age, you've got to cover generative AI. And very importantly, because this class is to help prepare people who might go out and become teachers, they're going to need to constantly be learning new things. What are the newest impacts that, new technologies that are coming out? What impacts are they having on society? And I think generative AI is going to be a huge, very, very important resource for our upcoming teachers, especially those teaching computer science. So I just want to give you an idea of one of the assignments that my students will be doing in this course starting in winter quarter. This is happening in their week 1. And basically, I'm getting them to use generative AI to brainstorm what new technologies might be able to come out that might support them. So the reason I'm having students do this is because it is a strength of generative AI that everybody can agree on is a great thing to do. And that is using it to think outside of the box. When we all start down to brainstorm, maybe we're sitting with some other people, we might feel, uncomfortable, or we might want to, sort of stick with things that we think others might expect us to say. You don't have to worry about that with Gen AI. Gen AI is not going to be concerned about your opinion of it. It's going to give you potentially novel ideas that maybe you want to be exploring. So I'm going to ask our guest who's going to come, and can we move to the next slide? We're going to show you the assignment that students will be doing. So we're going to give them a sample prompt and we're going to have people log into GPT. We're having a pilot study. All of the students in my class in winter quarter will get access to Triton GPT so that they can use that without having to worry about where their information is going, etc. And so we're going to have Karen is going to be my model student for us today. She's being wonderful, and we really appreciate her sharing a little bit about herself with us. So Karen, could you share your screen and log into Triton GPT for us?
Sure thing.
Okay, so the first thing, if you've not done a lot with Triton GPT, that you need to know is there are different assistants that you could have helping you. Now, this particular thing that we want Triton GPT to do, just brainstorm, isn't really UCSD specific. So the first thing that you want to do is in the bar right below there where it says UC San Diego Assistant, click on that and choose the General AI Assistant, because we'd like to be able to use all the information we've got. And hopefully I gave you a copy of our prompt that you can just copy and paste in. And for everybody else, as she's grabbing that, her prompt is going to say, create a list of 10 to 15 novel apps or technologies that would be useful in my life. And then we tell it, use the description of my life below for reference. We're telling the Triton GPT, be creative. I'm looking for novel app ideas or technologies, not ones that already exist. And it is okay to suggest new uses of existing technologies. So the one thing that then we have below that is this description of my life. And here we've got, Karen's already filled it in for us. She's described a little bit about her life. She says that she works full time. She's a wife and a mom to a teenage girl, mostly works remotely, but commutes 20 miles to the office once a week. That's a big thing these days. Life is busy with juggling remote, packed calendars, etc. Some things that she likes to do and things that maybe are coming up in the future, maybe planning a trip someplace like to go to Hawaii, etc. So go ahead and hit the arrow there to end, and let's see what kind of things that Triton GPT comes up for us. Ooh, family sync. An AI-powered calendar app. Ooh, a cooking app. That's a lot of ideas. Wellness Wave, a wearable device that tracks your stress levels. Interesting. So Karen, maybe you can scroll and look over these. She's not done this before, I promise you. Are any of these things that sound like they might be useful in your life?
Let's see. Sorry, I'm a slow reader. Yeah, I think some of them could potentially be helpful. Some of them sound a little bit similar to things that already exist.
That certainly seems right, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's I can imagine trying out some of these things if they exist.
Yeah, if they existed, or potentially this even just gives you an idea of some apps to search for
Yeah.
next time you're in the app store.
Mhm.
And maybe you're like, hey, I could use that. So this is again, just a sort of an interesting way to get our students thinking about, like, again, sort of as was shared earlier, sometimes you don't even know what you don't know. But you can, a great use of generative AI is just to go ahead and ask it. You don't need to be embarrassed. It's not gonna judge you. So why not throw something to the generative AI and let it see what sort of brainstorming ideas it can get for you. Maybe it'll give you a little bit of a push to get started on something that you're looking for.
I love that. It almost makes me think about if I wanted to generate new apps, like what are some ideas of like where's there a need out there? I could take an interview with somebody and say, here's this person's sort of experience. What are some thinking in terms of design thinking? What are some potential apps that exist, and what are maybe some needs that are not yet met by the apps that you found, that sort of thing. So interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us. And in the class you go through some sort of prompting. I noticed there that there's like a sort of there were some things that we've talked about in the previous sessions of like give it a little bit of context, put some boundaries on it, like be creative, looking for novel apps or ones that do not necessarily exist. So have you found, or do you guide in terms of how to prompt and how to make those efficient or effective?
We are definitely, prompting and what you need to do to make prompting work is changing all the time, but we're definitely, that's a huge part of the course, is having people reflect on, did I get what I wanted? And moreover, unlike what we did just now, don't just have a single interaction with the AI.
Mhm.
Continue to ask it to refine and whatever, and how much better does that give you in terms of what you're looking for, the things you want.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Simon and Karen, for that demonstration. Now, after we've launched our educational content, it's important to assess the outcomes and identify opportunities to improve. To discuss an example of this, I'm pleased to introduce Patty Juza.
All right, thanks, Mahmoud. I'm Patty Yuza. I'm the Associate Dean in the Division of Extended Studies, and I want to talk super briefly, because I know we're running short on time and want to ensure we have time for questions. Want to talk a little bit about language learning and how we've used a humanoid to do so. So one of the areas I oversee is the English Language Institute here at UC San Diego. And of course, over the history of language learning, there's always concerns that technology is going to disrupt or threaten or support language teaching and learning. And so in the past, if you look at the history, right, everything from print to recordings to radio to TV, videos, computer-assisted learning. We think that's the new edge, and that's what's going to assist students in learning languages, and it's going to displace faculty, if you will. And of course, that has not happened, right? All of these tools can assist students in acquiring a language, but in a sense, you still need some traditional learning as well. And one of the things I wanted to bring up were the different motivations for adult learners with language learning. So everything from intrinsic motivation, think about wanting to learn Italian so that you can visit Tuscany and take a cooking class in Italian, right? That might be some personal goal you have, or exchanging with culture. And then, of course, there's the extrinsic motivations for learning a language. Your employer needs you to pick up a new language in order to perform your job more effectively, or your government sponsor wants you to learn English so that you can complete a degree in an English-speaking country, right? These things are very critical in terms of being successful with language learning. And then, of course, just a couple of highlights about good practices in language learning instruction for adults. We know that adults are very motivated by receiving lots and lots of feedback, constructive feedback, critical feedback, but that aids in their motivation, and it also aids in their learning in terms of accuracy and application. The other thing I wanted to mention is really important, even though we're talking a little bit about AI today, is that sense of authenticity, right? Authentic simulations, authentic situations, and role plays has a direct impact on learning outcomes, right? And I'll get to that in just a moment with the example. And then, of course, in terms of language learning, ensuring that it's a comprehensive language model, that we're not just focusing on grammar and pronunciation and word choice, discourse and register and pragmatics. And again, that kind of circles back to that authenticity and real life situations to assist learners in acquiring a new language. Next slide, please. So this past year, we worked directly with Machani Robotics using this social humanoid to enhance the learning experience in a medical English program. This medical English program was designed for international healthcare professionals, some who are still in school themselves and some who are actually practicing healthcare professionals. And so Ria, if you will, joined us for a series of case studies. And if you can go to the next slide. She is a humanoid who the students in the class simulated a situation where they were practicing doctors and they had to diagnose the patient. Ria, this humanoid, played a variety of patient roles, if you will. And there are certain advantages of this, right? First, if you have been involved in training of healthcare professionals in the past, you may be aware that often actors or other students will get hired to play roles, if you will, and that can be costly and so on. But something like a humanoid can have endless amounts of energy and patience for a practicing healthcare professional who's acquiring English as another language, right? The humanoids can speak multiple languages, and this particular one speaks 130. So imagine a situation where you have healthcare professionals from around the world who are trying to learn different languages or assist a patient who's speaking different languages. And it's very versatile. You can save a lot of time. The interactions can be very authentic, because she looks human and can react like a human would, and ask questions and be confusing too. The students in the class, of course, receive instant feedback from the humanoid in the sense of whether she's understanding or not, if she's able to clarify what the doctor or the student in the medical English class is diagnosing. So there's that content instant feedback, which of course is a motivating factor for learning and acquiring another language. So really critical there. I mentioned it's more authentic, like simulation from, say, doing something online where it's flat and unidimensional. In this kind of learning environment, you can focus on the content itself, but also a variety of areas of language. So you can adjust the lesson so that it focuses more on pronunciation one class, maybe in discourse interactions in another class. It also frees the instructor up while this is all going on, while you have a humanoid speaking with your students one-on-one. The instructor is listening to what's happening, taking notes, and then able to concentrate on providing additional feedback and discussion points for other students in the class. What we found through this experience was it did enhance the learner motivation, that some of our students in the class were excited to take this course, tell other students about it, and take their language learning to a whole new level. And then, of course, it blended interactions, in-person interactions, if you will, with cutting-edge technology. We can foresee in the future, local healthcare professionals who need to learn another language to better assist their patients working with this type of model. We think there's a lot of new implications for it. I know we're going to be running out of time, so I will probably pause there and just say one other concern that we're, of course, mindful of are privacy concerns, right? If the humanoid is recording the students in order to learn more effectively using that language learning model, those are things we certainly continue to address. Okay, I'm going to kick it back over to Tony because I know there's probably a few questions.
No, I love that. Thank you. I love that you were able to bring it full circle, because it's a very visceral and real manifestation of AI, right? Right now, we've been speaking conceptually about how you can use prompts or how you might use it to be a thought partner, whatever. But this is a great example of, if we look back at our process map, that step number 6 is you had a project and a program that was running well enough, but there was still an opportunity to meet those learning outcomes in a little bit better, or and it didn't replace the faculty member, the instructor, right? It really gave the faculty member or the instructor an opportunity to then engage in a different way, or to have more rich feedback for the students. So love it, love it, love it. We are at about time. It is 59 right now. We're going to go ahead and pause. We have a number of questions that were answered in the chat. If you have any additionals, we'll stick around for a few minutes and try to answer them. I do want to get over to what is next. So there's going to be another webinar coming up. It's going to be sort of looking at the different features in Triton GPT and how they're built, the mathematics behind it, some of the hardware and software that's making Triton GPT move forward, as well as some of the structures, the administrative structures, and the ways that testing works, and some of the stuff that you asked in the chat, actually. So I'm excited we're on the right track. Folks are interested in some of that content. The slides and recording will be posted along with the first webinar, so go check that one out if you haven't yet. And feel free to share these out. So these are things that you're welcome to share with anyone, or repost, or that sort of thing. We still have open the adoption survey. So if you are a frequent user of AI, or if you are not, please feel free to give us some feedback on your perspectives on AI, your considerations and limitations. Any of that information is going to be really helpful. I would encourage you, if you are so motivated, to join the Learning Community of Practice or our Triton GPT Champion group that we're developing out. With that, I want to say thank you. And one last thing, in the appendix for this slide deck, at the very end, are example prompts that we used as we were developing and thinking through what we should be talking about. So what are the risks and implications if we don't think about AI? Why might staff be focused on, creating learning content? So we grabbed screenshots of these in case the other links weren't working for y'all. Otherwise, have a great day. Thank you for your time and your energy. I'll stop recording now, so anyone watching the recording doesn't have to watch the awkward quietness. Have a great day.